Restlessness is a funny thing. It creeps up on you, like a cat stalking its prey, silent and cunning. I'd been feeling it for months, gnawing at the edges of my sanity. Every night, after the kids went to bed, Jack and I would sit in silence. A lovely, awkward, soul-crushing silence. We were like two ghosts haunting the same house, each lost in our own thoughts. That's when the idea hit me, fueled by several glasses of wine and a hefty dose of frustration. Jack, I think we should try an open marriage. There it was, hanging in the air between us like a balloon ready to pop. I braced myself for the explosion, the arguments, the accusations. But instead, Jack just looked at me, blinked, and said, "Sure. Sure," just like that, no hesitation, no questions. He agreed almost too quickly, and I found myself wondering if he'd been waiting for this moment as much as I had. The next day at work, I couldn't shake off the conversation. Lisa, my best friend and unofficial therapist, was the first to hear about it. "You did what?" she screeched, nearly spilling her coffee. "Are you sure, Sarah? This could end badly." "Oh, come on, Lisa. It's not like I suggested robbing a bank. It's just a bit of adventure," I retorted, brushing off her concerns. Excitement buzzed through me at the thought of new possibilities, new experiences. Jack and I laid down some ground rules that night. No friends or colleagues, always use protection, and the golden rule, no falling in love. We decided to meet up once a week to discuss our experiences and ensure we were both comfortable with the arrangement. It felt oddly formal, like setting up a business contract. Maybe this was the secret to a happy marriage? Who knew? Joining a dating app under a pseudonym was my first step into this brave new world. I felt like a teenager sneaking into a club with a fake ID. The responses were overwhelming. Apparently, there's no shortage of men willing to wine and dine a bored housewife. After chatting with a few, I decided to meet Tom, a charming graphic designer, for coffee. Our conversation flowed easily, and for the first time in years, I felt a spark. Meanwhile, Jack seemed indifferent to the whole idea. He stayed late at work more often and didn't mention anything about his dating life. Was he even participating in our open marriage experiment? Part of me hoped he was, just to even the playing field, but his silence was disconcerting. My dates with Tom became more frequent. Intimate dinners, walks in the park, and eventually, our first night together in a hotel. I felt alive and desired, emotions that had been buried under years of domestic monotony. Tom was a breath of fresh air, a reminder that I was still a woman, not just a mother and a wife. Jack noticed my changed demeanor and asked if everything was okay. "Everything's great," I told him, expecting jealousy or anger. Instead, he just nodded and said, "I'm happy for you." Happy for me. His nonchalance puzzled me. Was he really that secure, or did he just not care? I decided to focus on my newfound happiness, pushing aside the questions and doubts. After all, I was finally living a little. And if Jack was happy for me, then who was I to question it? And so, our lives continued, a delicate dance of hidden desires and unspoken truths. Little did I know, the stage was set for a drama more intense than any I could have imagined. It all started with a text message, as these things often do. One evening, while Jack was in the shower, his phone buzzed on the nightstand. Curiosity got the better of me. After all, it was probably just a work email, right? Wrong. The screen lit up with a message from a woman named Emily. "Can't wait to see you tonight." My heart did a nosedive. So much for Jack's indifference. When Jack emerged from the shower, towel wrapped around his waist, I was sitting on the edge of the bed, phone in hand. "Who's Emily?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. The look on his face was priceless, part guilt, part annoyance. He admitted to seeing her for a few weeks. "It's just physical, Sarah. You wanted this, remember?" "Oh, right, because I totally wanted a front row seat to my husband's extracurricular activities." Guilt washed over me, but the feeling of betrayal was stronger. Meanwhile, things with Tom were heating up. We weren't just enjoying steamy hotel nights anymore. We were sharing personal stories, dreams, and fears. I realized, with a sinking feeling, that I was developing feelings for him. Feelings that broke the golden rule we had set. Torn between my crumbling marriage and my growing emotions for Tom, I felt like I was juggling knives in the dark. Lisa, always the voice of reason, noticed my turmoil. "Sarah, this is getting messy. What if Jack falls in love with Emily? She asked, concern etched on her face. Her words echoed in my mind, amplifying my fears. Falling in love wasn't part of the deal. But then again, when did life ever follow the script? Jack's late nights became more frequent. He was distant, often lost in thought. I began to suspect he was hiding something more significant than a casual fling with Emily. Call it a sixth sense or just plain paranoia, but I needed to know the truth. One night, I decided to follow him. Classic move, right? I watched from a distance as he met Emily at a cozy restaurant. Their intimacy was undeniable. They laughed, held hands, shared stolen kisses. My heart shattered into a million pieces. This wasn't just an open marriage, this was an affair, plain and simple. When Jack returned home, I confronted him, demanding the truth. The look on his face said it all. He confessed that his feelings for Emily had grown, and he was contemplating leaving me for her. It was like a punch to the gut. Anger, betrayal, sadness. All the emotions came crashing down. Our little experiment had backfired spectacularly, and I was left picking up the pieces of a broken marriage. And there I was, standing in the wreckage, wondering how the hell we had ended up here. What started as a bid for excitement had spiraled into a nightmare. My heart ached, not just for the loss of my husband's affection, but for the mess we had made of our lives. So much for new adventures. Desperation does funny things to people. It can make you believe in miracles or, in my case, couples therapy. Jack, we need help. We should go to therapy, I suggested, my voice wavering between determination and sheer panic. He reluctantly agreed, probably just to get me off his back. Our first session was exactly as awkward as I'd imagined. We sat on a lumpy couch, airing our grievances while the therapist nodded like some kind of wise owl. After what felt like hours of emotional vomit, she suggested we take a break from our other relationships to focus on rebuilding trust. Oh joy, because nothing says romance like forced monogamy. Breaking the news to Tom was another gut-wrenching experience. When I told him about the therapy, his reaction was heartbreakingly supportive. I want you to be happy, Sarah, even if that means letting you go. Tears welled up in my eyes. Great, now I was crying over the guy the first wasn't supposed to fall for. Tom's kindness was like salt in the wound, reminding me of everything that was wrong with my actual marriage. Jack and I started spending more time together, trying to reconnect. We went on dates, rediscovered old hobbies, and talked, really talked, for the first time in ages. Slowly, the walls between us began to crumble. It was like trying to piece together a shattered vase with super glue and sheer willpower. But of course, life loves throwing curveballs. Emily wasn't willing to let go of Jack easily. She bombarded him with messages, begging him to leave me. Jack was torn, caught between his family and his feelings for her. Fantastic. Just what we needed. A clingy other woman with no sense of boundaries. I decided it was time to face Emily directly. We arranged to meet at a cafe, and as I walked in, I was taken aback by how young and beautiful she was. Great, just great. Our conversation was civil, but the tension was palpable. Emily claimed she loved Jack and believed he loved her too. Well, wasn't that just the cherry on top of this emotional sundae? After the meeting, I confronted Jack again, my patience hanging by a thread. You can't have both of us, I told him, my voice firm despite the turmoil inside. He promised to end things with Emily, but I could see the conflict in his eyes. Promises were easy to make but hard to keep, especially when feelings were involved. Jack broke things off with Emily, but the damage was done. Trust was as fragile as glass, and our relationship was hanging by a thread. We continued therapy, navigating the rocky path of rebuilding our marriage. Each session felt like peeling back layers of old wounds, painful but necessary. As we stumbled through this mess, I couldn't help but reflect on how we got here. Our open marriage experiment had been a spectacular failure, exposing the cracks in our foundation instead of patching them up. But maybe, just maybe, this painful process would lead us to something stronger. If we could survive this, we could survive anything. So, there we were, two broken people trying to mend what was shattered. It wasn't pretty, and it certainly wasn't easy, but it was a start. And sometimes, that's all you can hope for. If you thought ending things with Emily would solve our problems, you'd be sorely mistaken. Despite Jack's best efforts, she continued to reach out to him, her persistence like a bad rash that wouldn't go away. Every time his phone buzzed, my heart would jump to my throat. I was drowning in a sea of jealousy and insecurity, each message from Emily a reminder of the fragile state of our marriage. During this emotional chaos, Tom became my lifeline. Even though we had agreed to put our relationship on hold, his unwavering support was a balm for my wounded soul. "You can do this, Sarah. Stay strong. Fight for what you want," he told me, his words echoing in my mind during my darkest moments. The irony wasn't lost on me, seeking solace in the arms of the very person who complicated my life. In therapy, Jack and I had a breakthrough. It was like finally finding the missing piece of a jigsaw puzzle that had been tormenting us for years. Our open marriage experiment had peeled back layers, exposing deeper issues we had ignored. Our lack of communication, our emotional disconnection. It wasn't just about the affairs, it was about us, the void that had grown between us over the years. Desperate to rebuild trust, we decided to take a family vacation. A cliché, maybe, but we needed to get away, to remember what made us a family. The trip was filled with moments of joy, laughter, and togetherness. We hiked, swam, and even managed to have a few deep, meaningful conversations. For a while, it felt like we were finding our way back to each other. But Emily's shadow loomed large, an uninvited guest on our journey to recovery. Reality crashed back in when we returned home. Emily had shown up at Jack's office, causing a scene that left his colleagues buzzing and his career teetering on the edge of chaos. Jack was furious, and rightly so. He filed a restraining order against her, a legal move that only added to the tension. I worried about the potential fallout on his job, on us. The mess seemed never-ending. Our therapy sessions intensified. We delved into our past, unearthing the roots of our discontent. I realized how much I had taken Jack for granted, expecting him to read my mind and fulfill my every need without ever voicing them. Jack, on his part, admitted to feeling neglected and unappreciated. It was a painful but necessary excavation of our emotional landscape. One evening, out of the blue, Jack suggested we renew our wedding vows. A symbol of our commitment to each other, he said, his eyes filled with a mixture of hope and desperation. I was hesitant. Could a ceremony really fix the mess we were in? But the idea of a fresh start was appealing. Maybe we needed that symbolic reset, a way to close one chapter and begin anew. We began planning a small, intimate ceremony. Just close friends and family, nothing too grand. It felt like trying to patch up a sinking ship with duct tape, but it was something. As we made arrangements, I couldn't help but feel a glimmer of hope. Perhaps this was our chance to truly start over, to rebuild what we had almost lost. Life, of course, had a way of keeping things interesting. As we prepared for our vow renewal, Emily's presence still lingered like a bad smell. But this time, we were determined to face it together. After all, if we could survive this, we could survive anything. And maybe, just maybe, we'd come out stronger on the other side. As the vow renewal approached, Jack started acting distant again. Fantastic timing. It was like he had a sixth sense for knowing exactly when to pull away. My paranoia kicked into high gear. Was he having second thoughts, or worse, still communicating with Emily? My suspicions grew, gnawing at me until I couldn't take it anymore. One night, when he was in the shower, I did the unthinkable. I checked his phone and emails. And there it was, an email from Emily, begging Jack to meet her one last time. My heart sank, a familiar sinking feeling that had become all too common. I confronted him, the words spilling out in a mix of anger and desperation. Jack confessed he still had feelings for her. It felt like a punch to the gut. So much for rebuilding trust. Devastated, I turned to the one person who had always been there for me, Tom. Our emotional bond reignited, and we found ourselves drawn back to each other. It was a dangerous path, but I felt lost and alone, and Tom was the only one who seemed to understand. Was this a solution? Probably not. Did it make me feel better? Absolutely. Jack and I had a heated argument about Emily. He accused me of not trusting him, and I accused him of betrayal. It was a shouting match of epic proportions, ending with him storming out and me left in tears. The house felt emptier than ever, echoing with the remnants of our fight. Lisa, always the voice of reason, urged me to end things with Tom. Sarah, you're just complicating your situation further, she warned. I knew she was right, but my heart ached at the thought of losing Tom again. He was my safe harbor in this storm of chaos. Finally, I decided to give Jack an ultimatum. Either fully commit to our marriage or we go our separate ways. It was now or never. He agreed to cut all ties with Emily and focus on us, but I could see the doubt in his eyes. Trust, once shattered, is a hard thing to rebuild. The vow renewal ceremony was bittersweet. Surrounded by close friends and family, we recited our promises. But beneath the surface, I couldn't shake off the feeling of uncertainty. The vows felt like plaster on a gaping wound. I wondered if our marriage could ever truly recover from the damage we had inflicted on each other. After the ceremony, Jack and I made a pact to be completely honest with each other. We promised to communicate openly and address any issues head-on. It was a fragile truce, but it was a start. We were like two soldiers, war-torn and weary, trying to find peace in the aftermath of battle. Whether we would succeed or fail, only time would tell. For now, we were taking it one step at a time, hoping that the path we were on would lead us back to each other. Rebuilding a broken marriage is a bit like trying to fix a shattered vase with superglue, messy and painfully slow. But Jack and I were committed. We attended therapy regularly, dragging our emotional baggage into that office week after week. And somewhere between the tears and awkward silences, we began to rediscover the love that had brought us together in the first place. However, just when I thought things were settling, Emily decided to make a grand reappearance. Her presence lingered like a bad hangover. She sent me threatening messages, blaming me for ruining her relationship with Jack. I considered changing my phone number and email, but then I thought, why should I be the one hiding? Enough was enough. It was time to confront the ghost haunting our lives. Meeting Emily at a neutral location felt surreal. She was angry, bitter, and full of accusations. But I stood my ground. Emily, it's over. You need to move on. Jack and I are rebuilding our marriage. She hurled a few more venomous words my way, but I hoped that facing her directly would show her just how resolved I was to save what was left of my marriage. Thankfully, Emily eventually backed off, but the whole experience left me shaken. It was a stark reminder of how close I had come to losing everything. I vowed to never let my guard down again. Jack and I continued to strengthen our relationship. We took up new hobbies together, went on regular date nights, and made a concerted effort to be more affectionate and supportive. It wasn't always easy, but we were trying. Just as I was starting to feel some semblance of normalcy, Tom reached out to me. He expressed his concern for my well-being, which tugged at my heartstrings more than I wanted to admit. Although I still had feelings for him, I knew I needed to focus on my marriage. I thanked him for his support and told him we couldn't continue our relationship. It was a bittersweet moment, but necessary for my own sanity. Through all of this, Lisa remained a steadfast friend. She helped me navigate the emotional roller coaster, offering a shoulder to cry on when I needed it most. Her unwavering support was a lifeline in the storm of my chaotic life. One evening, Jack surprised me with a weekend getaway to a cozy cabin in the mountains. It was exactly what we needed, a chance to reconnect without any distractions. We spent the weekend talking, laughing, and rediscovering the love that had brought us together. It was like a breath of fresh air, reminding us both why we had fought so hard to save our marriage. As we sat by the fireplace, wrapped in each other's arms, I felt a glimmer of hope. Maybe, just maybe, we were going to be okay. The road ahead was still uncertain, but for the first time in a long time, I felt like we were moving in the right direction. And for now, that was enough. Our weekend getaway was a turning point. It was as if the cozy cabin in the mountains had cast a spell on us, wrapping us in a cocoon of warmth and intimacy. When we returned home, Jack and I had a renewed sense of purpose and commitment to each other. We were determined to put the past behind us and build a stronger future. In a bid for a fresh start, we decided to sell our house and move to a new neighborhood. The move was stressful, packing up our lives and saying goodbye to familiar faces, but it also filled us with a sense of hope and excitement. A new environment meant new beginnings, and we were ready for it. Jack's promotion at work was a pleasant surprise. It boosted his confidence and our financial stability. We celebrated his success, using it as an opportunity to strengthen our bond. It felt like the universe was finally cutting us some slack, and we were determined to make the most of it. Finding a new job that I was passionate about helped me regain my sense of identity and purpose. Jack was supportive, and we celebrated each other's achievements with genuine happiness. It was refreshing to feel like we were on the same team again. Emily attempted to contact Jack one last time, but he firmly rejected her advances. He assured me that his commitment was to our family and our future together. It was a relief to see him draw a clear line, and I felt a weight lift off my shoulders. Our children noticed the positive changes in our relationship. They were happier and more relaxed, which reinforced our decision to prioritize our marriage. It was heartwarming to see the impact our efforts were having on them. We continued to attend therapy, even as our relationship improved. We wanted to ensure we had the tools to navigate any future challenges that might arise. It was a proactive approach that paid off, keeping us grounded and connected. We made a pact to always communicate openly and honestly, no matter how difficult the conversation. This newfound transparency became the cornerstone of our rebuilt trust. We were determined to never let secrets and misunderstandings erode our bond again. Our social circle expanded as we made new friends in our neighborhood. These new connections brought fresh perspectives and experiences into our lives, enriching our relationship. It felt like we were part of a vibrant community that supported and uplifted us. Lisa introduced me to her cousin, David, who had recently gone through a similar experience. We became friends, sharing our stories and supporting each other through the healing process. It was comforting to have someone who truly understood what I had been through. Jack and I joined a local community group focused on strengthening marriages. We attended workshops and events, learning from other couples who had faced and overcome similar challenges. It was inspiring and reaffirming to see that we weren't alone in our struggles. Tom moved to a different city for a new job opportunity. We parted on good terms, wishing each other well. I felt a sense of closure, knowing that chapter of my life was over. It was time to fully focus on the future. Jack and I celebrated our anniversary with a special trip to the place where we had first met. It was a nostalgic and emotional experience that reaffirmed our love for each other. We reminisced about our journey, feeling grateful for how far we had come. We made a tradition of writing letters to each other every year on our anniversary, expressing our gratitude and love. These letters became cherished mementos of our journey, a tangible reminder of our commitment and resilience. Our children grew closer to us as we became more present and engaged in their lives. We made family time a priority, creating lasting memories together. It was fulfilling to see our efforts reflected in their happiness and well-being. Jack and I started a joint project, renovating an old house into our dream home. Working together on this project brought us even closer, as we shared ideas and made decisions as a team. It was a labor of love that strengthened our bond. We hosted a housewarming party to celebrate our new home and new beginning. Surrounded by friends and family, we felt a sense of accomplishment and joy. It was a testament to our hard work and dedication. Jack and I continued to nurture our relationship, always finding new ways to keep the spark alive. We learned to appreciate each other and the journey we had been through. It wasn't always easy, but it was always worth it. Emily eventually moved on with her life, finding a new partner and leaving us in peace. The chapter with her was finally closed, allowing us to fully focus on our future. It was a relief to know we could move forward without that lingering shadow. Our vow renewal ceremony became an annual tradition, a reminder of our commitment and the strength of our love. Each year, we invited close friends and family to celebrate with us. It was a joyous occasion that reinforced our bond. Jack and I traveled more, exploring new places and creating new memories. These adventures brought us closer and enriched our lives. We embraced the world together, hand in hand. We became mentors to other couples in our community, sharing our story and offering support to those facing similar challenges. Helping others strengthened our own relationship, giving us a sense of purpose and fulfillment. Our children grew up, understanding the importance of communication and commitment in relationships. They admired the strength of our marriage and carried those lessons into their own lives. It was gratifying to see them thrive with the values we had instilled. Jack and I celebrated our 25th wedding anniversary with a grand celebration, surrounded by friends and family. It was a testament to our love and resilience. We had come a long way, and the journey was far from over. Reflecting on our journey, we realized that the open marriage experiment, despite its turmoil, had ultimately brought us closer. We had emerged stronger and more committed than ever. Our love had been tested and had prevailed. With our relationship stronger than ever, Jack and I looked forward to the future with hope and excitement. We knew that no matter what challenges lay ahead, we would face them together, hand in hand.